Hi YouTube, Martin O'Brien, Weekend Woodworks. Here we are again Saturday morning, and I'm gonna make this. Made one the other day, a couple of weeks ago for myself. Couch table. My nephew said he wants one, so I'm gonna make one. That's what I'm gonna do. So here's the couch in situ. Nice thing to put your beer on. It's mitered at the top and the bottom, and you can see here where I made the mistake last time. That is a loose tenon joint, so it's got a massive loose tenon that runs all the way through it. Also, we've got these bevels here, which I made on mine 45 degrees because that's all my table saw would go down to. What I'm going to do first, because it looks a little bit chunky, and this is the timber I'm going to make it out of, which is the same thickness, I'm going to, I don't really want to rip this down because it's kaori, and also this weighs a ton, so I don't want to get it out again. But I don't really want to rip it down. A little bit of scurf in there. Again, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to add to my jig collection, and I'm going to make a jig for the table saw that will increase the degrees of this bevel, or the degrees that my miter saw can create a bevel, to about 30 degrees this way, something like that. So let's get set up. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to make this jig for these bevels. So this jig is going to be made up of 3 pieces of wood: the backboard and 2 other pieces which are going to hook over the fence of the table saw, and then the whole jig is going to slide along the fence of the table saw. So I'm just marking here where all the screw holes are going to go. Get them all nice and screwed out, so we can screw all these bits together. Just transferring all the marks from each hole to each hole rather than measuring each time. Just measure once. Just using a small clamps there, just to so I can drill through and not have to measure, you know. And once I do this, I'll transfer it over to the table saw, so just the top is going on now. That's going to slide over the table saw fence, and then I'm going to transfer it over to the table saw, so I can square it all up against the table saw tabletop, because that's the squarest thing in my workshop. So just putting a bit of masking tape on the inside of where the table saw fence is going to slide through, just to create a little tiny bit of a gap, not so it runs smoothly across but doesn't jiggle side to side, so I can get nice square cuts. So it took quite a lot of clamping this to get it all square. Had to screw it on, unscrew it, and bit of a wrestle with this just to try and get it square, but it all turned out okay in the end. So so that's pretty tight. But if I take that tape off, hopefully will be just right. Get my lubey stuff in here. Lube. Okay, so let's see how that slides. Nice. Once we get that sliding nice, that's the jig made. I've just clamped a little bit of scrap material to this just so I can see how it works. So as you can see, it slides through pretty nice and worked out quite nice. So clamping the actual material to it now, realised that I could only get one clamp around because it was too high, so thought I would hold it with my hands, and my hands were well clear of the blade, so all worked out pretty good. So you can only get one clamp on, and then I've got to hold the other end. I did actually find what I should have actually done there was cut the ends first rather than the sides, because you get breakout when you cut the ends. Get breakout on the sides of the timber, and then you can cut the breakout off if you cut it lengthways. So, but there you go, you live and learn. Okay, sweet. So that angle is a lot better for the table, I think. And we're going to do these waterfall ends. Now this one piece is going to be the base, so that doesn't need a waterfall end, so we will just cut a straight 45 in that. So just making sure my blade's at 45 degrees and just securing this piece of wood down so it stays at 45 degrees. This mitre, 45 degrees was critical to get a good mitre. This time I realised that the blade wasn't tall enough and didn't cut all the way through the wood, so left a little bit of a jagged edge, but we took care of that on with a chisel later on. So that's the base done. See the jagged edge. Then we moved on to the waterfall end of the tabletop and the side. Cut one side first, so made sure it's all clamped down real nice to get a good 45 degree cut. And the blade did actually manage to get all the way through this timber this time. Nice cut. Still left a little bit of a jagged edge. So now we just got to turn it around, and this is how you get the waterfall end. So you turn around the same piece of timber and cut it at 45 degrees as close as you can so that grain runs through. And here we are. All of the sawing for this project. I think that's all of the sawing on the table saw anyway. So what I'll do, I'll go and tidy up the table saw, keep everything tidy, and then I'll come back and we'll chisel the edges of these, see if the miters are great, see if the edges have got, if the miters on the ends, this one is okay but this one isn't, miters on the ends meet up, and then we'll do some routing. Right, so we've got we've got the router table sorted out now. So we've got this piece. That's the base. No, that's going to be the top, unfortunately, because it's got these holes in. But it's either that or that crack. But that's kaori for you, I'm afraid. It's been in a swamp for years, so what can you do, you know? So that's the side. So perhaps that should have been the top, but I don't know. It's just the way it is, really. I would like that to be the base, really, but I don't know. Raise the router so it's at the right depth. Now they say to go to 3/4 of an inch. Not sure what 3/4 of an inch is in metric, but I reckon probably about 20 mil. So we're going to go to 20 mil. So here we come with the first piece, and we're plunging it onto the router. So I did the full depth with one plunge this time, and you see I've got stop blocks both sides of that jig, so I can't go through the side of the timber with that router bit, and a little bit of a backpacker on the back so it sits at the right place. Here comes the next bit. With this bit I did 2 passes, so I did the router at 10 mil and then the router bit at 20 mil, and something must have moved because these needed a bit of chisel out in these grooves after it had finished to get the loose tenons. We've done the routed bits for the loose tenons. Missed a bit there, a little bit dodgy, but you can't see them anyway. Luckily with this table, what I learned from the last table was to do the tenons after you've done the bevel, because last time I did the tenons before I did the bevel, and I went through the tenon router bit groove with the bevel, which was a nightmare, which caused that. With the loose tenons, the groove we've got in there is 20 mil. So the loose tenon needs to be 40 mil max. Just marking out for the loose tenons, get the right length, chop them on the miter saw. Tidy up. So we actually chopped 4 of them, and I only needed 2 for some reason. Strange. Anyway, I took it over to the table saw, set up the fence, and cut them to the right width, or as close as possible. Once they were at the right width, took them over to the piece and measured them up for length. Now I wanted to keep them shorter, quite a bit shorter, because then I've got wiggle room to get the miter right, and I can move each piece side to side to give me a little bit of space for when I make that obvious mistake I'm going to make. So once I've chopped these all to length, and they obviously don't fit in, but very, very, very tight anyway, take them over to the sander, sand them down a little bit, try them again, no good, take them back to the sander. Sweet. Great. Now, let's do a dry fit. Yes. That. Day 2. We've got a cleaner workshop, and we've also got this sofa chair that's ready for sanding. So we've got the loose tenons in here, which can come out and live somewhere else for a minute, and then we're just going to do loads of sanding. So you're going to be on time lapse or faster speed today for most of it, I think. Okay, the fun bit, sanding. Everyone hates sanding. Just marking with the pencil on every single face, squiggly lines, as many as I can really. Pretty faintly, just so I don't mark the, indent the grain, just so I can sand more evenly across the surface. Now that's the pencil line gone off that face, but this kaori has, I don't know whether you can see that, has these rough bits. It's a really smooth wood, has these rough bits, and you can get that out. But what I'm scared of is sanding that down too much and then it throwing out this joint because it's not joined together. So all I'm going to do for now is I'm going to make sure that the whole thing is kind of like smoothish, so I don't take a lot off. Get rid of these pencil lines. Then I'll probably glue it, and then I'll come back tomorrow and kind of try and get that mark out. Then I'm not interrupting that join, And we've also got a mark here from the planer, which I'll try and get out. We've sanded that all down. It's pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. So apart from the top, which is going to be, I think it's going to be the underside, but I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm just going to make more marks on there with the pencil. Just so when I go over it again with the first sand, I can make sure that I've got everywhere. I think every other surface seems okay. So we'll just go for it on that one. Just going to masking tape all these little joins up, just so when I glue it, I don't have to sand in all these corners. It's a mistake I made on the last one. Now for the clamping up, I'm going to glue this side, just so that doesn't fall out. Now the clamping on this project was quite difficult compared to the first one. The first table had 45-degree bevels, so it was easier to get the clamps round. The squares wouldn't actually clamp very well because the bevel was in the way, so nothing was square. So it was quite difficult. Also on this one I tried to use some packers so the wherever I could, so the clamps wouldn't bear on the wood because it was bruising the wood on the last one, which meant more sanding. So here I'm just sanding by hand, finish everything by hand. 240 sandpaper, I think. I've been over it with 3 different types of sandpaper so far, 120, 180, and then this is 240, and then the final one was 400, I think. Finished the sanding. Now to clean it off with white spirit. So clean off all the dust, get it nice and clean, and then we'll come back and wait for it to dry, and then we'll come back and we'll put some teak coil on it. Okay, go make a cup of tea and come back and put the finish on. Thirsty wood. So there's kaori. Some of this kaori is swamp kaori. It's found in the swamp. Some of this kaori is 45,000 years old. Not sure about this bit, but I think if you were 45,000 years old, you'd be thirsty as well, eh? So beautiful. Come back when I've finished it. Okay, first coat of teak oil. Got the mark again, bloody planer. Anyway, done that twice now. I haven't got one there. Had to be on the bottom, didn't it? Anyway. Nice grain. Nice colours anyway. So there we go. Sofa table. Couple of more coats and we're ready. It's quite cool the way the top is longer than the bottom. When I made mine was equal, so we'll see how that pans out when it comes to balance. Pretty cool graining on the top, but even better on the bottom. Thanks for that. Subscribe, like, and hit the notification button. Cheers.